Okay, Disney, you need to stop. You need to slow the hell down. Take what you have with Marvel and Star Wars, reduce that production schedule considerably, and start over, because good God Almighty, they've committed, in my mind, the cardinal sin when you're handling a franchise, and that is they have oversaturated themselves to such a degree that watching and keeping up with the product is no longer exciting, it's no longer engaging, it is now a chore, and at least it is for someone like me, and I would rather walk away from it entirely than to constantly be getting caught up on all the new material that they are constantly producing and all the things that they constantly have in the pipeline. They have taken two beloved brands in Marvel and Star Wars in particular, I have a very strong connection to, going all the way back to my childhood, and they have, through all the movies they produced and all the television shows that they're produced and all the things that are in the pipeline coming up for the next couple of years, they have turned those things, they're no longer special, is basically the point that I'm getting to. The Marvel brand is no longer special. The Star Wars brand, and this one really depresses me, is no longer special because it's everywhere. It's just every time I turn around, they've got 3 new shows coming out, and it's boring, it's mundane, it's normal, it's factory assembled, and it's just this constant production schedule to keep shelling things out there over and over and over again in this constant stream of content that is constantly being produced, and it is damn near impossible for any human being to be expected to keep up with and watch all of this. It's absolutely insane. And there are people that are, dedicated to Marvel, Star Wars, or both, or just Disney in general, but I was talking to somebody the other day that said the only movies I see in theaters are Marvel movies, and I looked at him like he had 6 heads, because it's like, look, I understand there have been really good Marvel movies in the past, but I wouldn't want that to be the only thing that I ever see in theaters. I like variety, and I've got other things that I enjoy watching, which is part of my problem. Marvel, well, I should say Disney, basically wants to dominate my free time because they expect us to watch all of this stuff and here's the other, tricky thing that they always do, and this is not a new thing, they've been doing it for a while, but it's a lot more obvious now as they produce more and more content, but all of these shows and all of these movies serve no real purpose other than setting up other movies and other TV shows. In Phase 4 of the MCU, the only things I've watched are Spider-Man No Way Home, and I only watched that out of nostalgia for the Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, and I was rewarded for that because Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina were absolutely fantastic, and for nostalgia reasons that movie worked. So I saw that, and I watched WandaVision, and I reviewed it on this channel, and I said this would be a really good show as like a standalone thing where they dedicate themselves to the TV aspect and make it kind of this weird Twilight Zone thing where Vision tries to figure out what the heck is going on, and we as the audience try to figure out what's going on. But they ultimately ruined it by introducing S.W.O.R.D., and then we got to set up the Marvels, and then we got to set up Doctor Strange 2, and we have to set up an Agatha Harkness show, which I don't know if they were thinking an Agatha Harkness show at the time, but maybe the song was such a hit that they figured that they could get an entire show out of the character. I don't know, but they took a show, they sacrificed the story of the show and this cool concept that they had for the sake of setting up 12 other things that are going on down the pipeline. And it just was like, oh my God, it's such a cheap thing to do. I think that's the best way I can describe it. It's cheap because it's like they're constantly promising you this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing at the expense of the present, and it keeps you watching every new thing that comes out just to keep following the breadcrumbs and follow all the stream of consciousness that's going on. And but like I said, it comes at the expense of the present. Like WandaVision could have been this really, really cool thing, and I thought Elizabeth Olsen, her performance was outstanding in that show, but it was ultimately used to set up more movies and more TV shows and took away some of the quality of that show. I don't know if I mean, obviously, Doctor Strange 2 did great at the box office, so, what do I know? But it's just, I see things like that more and more, and it's getting annoying. Even Star Wars. Things were good when all we had was The Mandalorian. That first season of The Mandalorian was fantastic. And then season 2 was very enjoyable. But again, I started to notice some of those things. It's like, oh my God, they're setting up an Ahsoka show. And then they're setting up a Boba Fett show. And then they're setting up possibly a show with the Sasha Banks Mandalorians and the Katie Sackhoff Mandalorian. That could be something that they're doing. And then they brought in Luke Skywalker. And it's like, oh my God, they might be setting up a Luke Skywalker show. So they use season 2 as a platform to set up 14 other things. And again, kind of at the expense of the present, where they didn't have to do that. Now, it wasn't as annoying in Mandalorian, because I think a lot of the things that made season 1 great were still present in season 2. But it started a trend where I'm like, uh-oh, is this what Star Wars is going to turn into now? And sure enough, they've got so many shows in the pipeline and more movies in the pipeline, and they're going to keep that factory train running. And they took something that was actually really cool and one of the best Star Wars things to come out in decades, and now it's just another thing in the schedule, in the hefty Disney Plus schedule and the theater schedule of all these things that they have to get out there to kind of dominate everybody's attention by releasing all of this stuff. But even as someone like me, who is a big Star Wars fan and grew up a big Star Wars fan, when I get nostalgic for Star Wars, I think of the days before Disney, before the prequels, and even before the special edition, where all we had were the original movies and the books. And then, of course, the video games were out at the time as well. And, there were a couple of animated shows. There was the Droid show and the Ewok show, which almost nobody remembers. I do, because I'm a dork. But and then there were the 2 Ewok movies, which, again, very few people remember. I do, because I'm a dork. But there wasn't this glut of content. It was just these classic movies that would stand the test of time forever. Although the current status of the brand seems to be driving more and more people away from Star Wars. So, again, what do I know? And then there's... and we had these books, which were basically, for better or worse, it was basically published fan fiction. Some of it was very, very good. I reviewed a lot of it on this channel, and some of those books I absolutely adore. Some of them are flat out terrible, but I didn't have to read all of them. It was just kind of a pick and choose, and I'm feeling the Star Wars kick lately. Let me read this book, and hopefully it's good. And that was kind of all the investment they asked of me. It was like, every once in a while I'll go buy a book and, enjoy it. And hey, it got me reading, so what's the harm in that? But the current status of things, I'm pulling up the schedule right now. This is the schedule that IGN posted back in May of all the Star Wars projects that are coming out. We've got the Obi-Wan show, which has already come out. I didn't see it. A Cassian Andor show, which, look, I liked Rogue One. Never in a million years did I think, that Cassian Andor guy, he really needs his own TV show or his own movie. So I have absolutely no desire to see that. Tales of the Jedi animated show, The Bad Batch Season 2, I still haven't seen Season 1, Mandalorian Season 3 coming out next year, The Young Jedi Adventures coming out next year, Star Wars Visions Volume 2, I don't even know what that is, I didn't even see Volume 1, that's coming out next year, the Ahsoka TV show is coming out next year, something called Star Wars Skeleton Crew is coming out next year, The Acolyte is coming out, TBD. There's a Lando TV series in development. There's a Taika Waititi Star Wars movie, which after Thor Love and Thunder, again, I haven't seen Thor Love and Thunder, but based on what I've heard, the idea of Taika Waititi having a Star Wars movie doesn't exactly thrill me. A Rogue Squadron movie directed by Patty Jenkins, I believe, fresh off the heels of the wonderfully and acclaimed, the wonderfully well accepted and acclaimed Wonder Woman 1984. Please don't make a Rogue Squadron movie. What are you doing to me? Book of Boba Fett Season 2. Did anyone like Season 1? Oh my God. Kevin Feige Star Wars movie, status unknown. Book of Boba Fett is also status unknown. There's a J.D. Dillard and Matt Owens movie, status unknown. And then a few canceled things. There's Rian Johnson's trilogy, which got canceled to the surprise of no one. A few other things. But that's the status of things right now. And this is just in the next couple of years. So they're really moving forward on, like, just get it out there. Just throw all that content out there. Just beat everyone over the head with it. And just Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. And, you know, I talked about my nostalgia for Star Wars and what it was like when I was a kid. And even the prequels, when those were coming out, there wasn't a whole lot of Star Wars content. Again, you still had the books, which were used to kind of supplement the prequels, which is something I wasn't really a big fan of, because I feel like the movies should be able to stand on their own, and when you start having to write books to explain the things in your movie, that's a problem. But there wasn't a whole lot of, like, material in between the prequels films. You had a movie, which felt like a big deal, again, for better or worse. Felt like an event film. And then there was really nothing in between, no special spin-off movies, and the only TV show that I recall that came in between the prequel films were the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars cartoons, which were shorts, and they were really good. And it was just kind of like a quick thing to kind of, you know, keep people interested in Star Wars in between the movies. And that was all they did. They didn't throw out 10 different shows with 3 other movies in between the different episodes. And that was one of the things that killed the sequel trilogy, killed a lot of the excitement for it. They started releasing films in between the episodes, and it no longer felt special to go to a Star Wars movie, which is, you know, there's a huge difference where you have to wait 3 years in between movies instead of waiting a few months or a year in between movies. And, you know, they famously, or infamously, the Solo movie bombed. It was like the first Star Wars movie to really bomb. And some people pointed out, it's like, look, there was just a Star Wars movie back in December, Last Jedi, and I don't want to open that can of worms again, but you just released a Star Wars movie, and then 5 months later, we're getting hit with another one. It doesn't work for Star Wars to have this constant string of content constantly being thrown at you. It doesn't work like that. Star Wars works better when you scale back and you make the movies and the projects feel more special. And if they had just kept chugging along making Mandalorian on Disney Plus and maybe one other thing like Bad Batch, which is, I've heard it's good, I haven't seen it, but you know, do like one other thing, that would have been fine. I would have been happy with it. Or better yet, because season 2 of Mandalorian had such a great ending, don't make any more Mandalorian. We're done. Story's been told. Move on to the next thing. Wrap up something and then move on to the next thing. Instead of trying to produce 10 different things at once. And, you know, all this Star Wars stuff is in conjunction with all the stuff that Marvel's doing with, that Disney's doing with Marvel. And I'm sitting there like, there cannot possibly be this many talented filmmakers and visual effects artists to make all this stuff look good. There can't be. And people are starting to comment on the lowering quality of CGI and special effects in Marvel and Star Wars products. A lot of people I talked to mentioned Thor: Love and Thunder, that the CGI looked horrible. And a lot of people are commenting on She-Hulk. The CGI on the character looks absolutely dreadful. And it's like, well, with these, like, tightened schedules and quick turnarounds that they have to have, and them being stretched thin between this and several other products, I'm not surprised. This is a Herculean task for anybody to expect to do, and to expect all of these crews to produce all of this stuff and to make it all good is damn near impossible. It just absolutely blows my mind. And again, let's go back to the sequel trilogy. Let's pretend that those movies are good. They're not. I've talked about several times in the past about how 7, 8, 9 were not good, and in my mind, I was like, all right, I'm erasing them from my memory, and the true 7, 8, 9 are the Thrawn trilogy, but be that as it may, let's pretend that they're good. Even if they're good, the fact that you're throwing all of this other Star Wars content out there, it becomes annoying and burdensome to try and keep up with all this. It's no longer, Star Wars is no longer exciting, it's just this oversaturated brand. And on this channel, where I focus primarily on professional wrestling, my number one criticism of WWE for at least the last 2 decades, maybe, maybe not as long as 2 decades, but certainly probably since the death of WCW, is that they have too much content when you have a 3-hour Raw, a 2-hour NXT, a 2-hour SmackDown every week with a monthly pay-per-view event. It becomes too much for any one person to follow, and that's to say nothing for all the other shows they've got floating around like NXT UK and Main Event, and is 205 Live even still going? I don't even know, but I heard Mick Foley comment the other day that WWE should do an all-women's show, and I'm like, and do what with it? They have so much content already. It's like they need to start subtracting content before they even consider like doing something like an all-woman show. It's like they need to be reducing their schedule rather than adding to it, because right now it's just it's too much to handle. And I see that same thing, that same issue going on with Marvel and with Star Wars, all under the Disney umbrella. And let's look at the schedules for what's upcoming with Marvel. We've got Phase 4 to wrap up with She-Hulk and Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, which I have my own feelings on that particular film. But Phase 4 as a whole, I've only watched the one movie, and that's the Spider-Man movie. But I'm looking at what they produced for this thing, and it's like, all right, they did a Black Widow movie 5 years too late. They did a Shang-Chi movie that I literally don't know anybody that saw it. Truth be told, I've asked people. I didn't see it, and I don't know anybody that saw it. I know even less people that saw the Eternals. Like, negative people saw the Eternals. But I heard it was really, really bad online, and based on the online reviews I heard. Doctor Strange, I haven't seen that. Thor Love and Thunder, I haven't seen that. I heard it was terrible. And you've got Black Panther coming up, which kind of feels, I mean, that trailer, again, a lot of those MCU things are coming up because it's like, all right, so they're teasing Ironheart because they have an Ironheart show to produce, so they're putting her in the Black Panther movie to get people to see her so they can set her up for the blah, 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 blah. It's like everything is its own backdoor pilot for something else. And if you don't know what a backdoor pilot is, I highly recommend looking it up, because there's some fascinating ones that have come up over the years, especially when you look at shows like The Golden Girls and Married with Children and even Star Trek, the history of backdoor pilots and how they almost never work. But it's like the MCU has become that, where everything is just a backdoor pilot for something else. I heard Doctor Strange set up like America Chavez and giving her her own movie or her own show or whatever. But, I think back to the previous phases in the MCU. First of all, there was never this much content. You've got all these movies and then all of these shows. WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, and then She-Hulk coming up. And by the way, I completely forgot about Hawkeye and Miss Marvel, quite honestly. But no other phase of the MCU has had this much content, because before it was just a few movies a year, focusing on different characters, keeping a storyline moving along to build to the eventual Avengers movie or a battle with Thanos or what have you. I mean, phase 1 was basically introduce everybody, and then the Avengers ended phase 1, and it was now cross them all over. And that was it. That was basically what they did. I don't know what the point of phase 4 was from a storyline perspective, outside of, make all of the content. Just make everything. And I'll go back to Black Panther for a second. I'm looking at this thing, and they're setting up Ironheart. They're setting up Namor. Finally, we're getting Namor. Oh my God, I'm so excited to see Aquaman's second-rate cousin. But in this movie, it's like they're using the Black Panther name, even though the actor is unfortunately no longer with us, Chadwick Boseman. The two things that made the first Black Panther movie work so well were Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan. Neither one of them are going to be in this movie for storyline reasons and for practical real-world tragedy reasons, but they're relying on the brand to sell the movie, and then they're going to use that brand to sell other movies and other shows down the road. It just feels really cheap and lazy to me. And I don't know, I got like kind of a ghoulish feeling, and maybe it's because I'm too cynical, but when the trailer so prominently features T'Challa's funeral as like part of the movie, it makes me feel like Disney felt like they had a chance to monetize Chadwick Boseman's funeral and to get us to pay for attendance. That was the thought that crossed my mind, but maybe I'm just way too cynical about it. But, there's just way, way, way too much going on. And there's been a noticeable decline in the quality of the content that people are starting to comment on. People are starting to notice. When you look at the reaction to Thor: Love and Thunder, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. You look at the reaction to the Eternals, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. They're just producing content for the sake of producing content. And, all the identity politics thing that's been a major talking point for a few years now, I've got news for you. Disney does not care about any of that. They just want to make money. And they think by pushing this stuff, they're going to get you to watch it, and they'll get your money. They'll get your clicks, your time, and your money. That's the whole point. In the Obi-Wan show, Reva was such a major talking point online, a bit of an online controversy. And I'm sitting there right now, and I'm like, this is all a game. This is all a trick. We're being played. This is all to get people to watch the Obi-Wan show because they think that there's some kind of controversy on it. And then they're setting up this Reva character to eventually get her own show down the road because she's, based on what I've been told, and again, I haven't seen the show, she is way too involved with the storyline to not have some kind of show or story of her own. So it's like this entire Obi-Wan show was used as basically a backdoor pilot to set up a Reva show, which I'm sure in turn will be used to set up 3 or 4 other shows down the road, because that's how we got to keep this stuff moving.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next products.
Thank you, Jay. Now, moving right along with Marvel, we've got the schedules for phases 5 and 6 were revealed at Comic-Con. Phase 6 is a little bit more up in the air. There's a lot more blank spots. But Phase 5, they outlined this whole massive thing with shows and movies galore. It's like, looking at the list for Phase 5 alone, it's like, oh my god, there's more content in Phase 5, it feels like, than like Phases 2 and 3 combined. It's again, way too much, and no human being could possibly be expected to watch all of this. You've got Ant-Man 3, which I'm not even the biggest fan of Ant-Man 1 and 2. I saw both of those movies in theaters, and I, for the life of me, cannot tell you right now who the villain was in either movie, because I've completely forgotten, because those movies left almost no impression on me. How did Ant-Man get a trilogy? I don't know. Secret Invasion, which is a Disney Plus show, whatever. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I didn't even like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 all that much. Echo, I don't know what that is. Loki Season 2, didn't see Season 1. The Marvels, whatever. Blade, oh dear God, don't hurt my boy Blade. Don't hurt my boy. I like the first Blade movie from back in the day. I have my doubts that they'll be able to handle this one well. You've got the Ironheart show, which again, Black Panther is going to be used to set that up. The Agatha Harkness show, because that is completely necessary. Daredevil, a new Daredevil show is coming out, and I'll have more to say about that. I'll circle back to that. Captain America New World Order, which produced an awesome Hulk Hogan meme, but other than that, I don't care. And a Thunderbolts movie, which, sure, why not? And then we've got Phase 6. They've got a Fantastic Four movie coming out, and then 2 Avengers movies, The Kang Dynasty and The Secret Wars. That Secret Wars movie would be a lot more appealing if they still had the major players from the Infinity Saga, but they don't. They might even bring them all back and just say, hey, fuck it, we're doing this. Who knows? I mean, nobody stays dead when there's money to be made. But I mentioned Daredevil, and it's so funny to see Disney oversaturating themselves like this with all of these TV shows for Star Wars and Marvel, because Marvel made the exact same mistake when they were producing shows on Netflix. Remember when the Daredevil show dropped on Netflix, and remember how well received it was? We were like, oh my god, this show is amazing, it's great. And then they took that success and used it to turn around and produce show after show after show after show after show. There was a Jessica Jones show that ran for 2 or 3 seasons. There was a Luke Cage show that ran for 2 or 3 seasons. There was an Iron Fist show that was absolutely terrible, and yet somehow got 2 seasons. There was a Defender show, because you got to do the big crossover. There was a Punisher show. And all of these shows had seasons that were way too long, at 13 episodes each, except for the Defenders, which was only an 8-episode miniseries. But all of those shows were just way, way, way too long, and there were too many of them going on at once. And it was like, guys, slow it down. Slow it the fuck down. What are you doing? Why are you producing all of this? The only show that managed to handle all of that, the 13 episode season and managed to stay good was Daredevil. All the rest of them, it was like, I'm sitting there watching some of these and it's like, it's too long, it's annoying. And I was about halfway through Jessica Jones season 2 and I was like, why am I watching this? Why am I watching this? I'm not enjoying it, but I felt there was some kind of, because I'm a fan, there was some kind of obligation to watch this all. And I was like, no, there's not. I don't have to watch all this. I've got other things I can enjoy, other things I can watch. And it's just criminal. Like what they constantly do to themselves. Something becomes a hit and their first impulse is just overexpose the holy crap out of it. And it's just, oh my God. Then you look at what DC did with the CW shows. Again, same thing. Arrow, solid fun for 2 seasons. Flash, solid fun for 2 seasons. And then you got to throw Supergirl, you got to throw Batwoman, you got to throw, what was the one? Legends of Tomorrow. You got to throw, there was a Superman show in there. There was, I don't know. There might have been 3 or 4 other shows. But the basic point is, it started off as simple fun and then became like, there's 9 shows that you have to watch to keep up with all of this. And I was like, no, thank you. I'm out. I'm out. I'm like, I'm done. No, thank you. And then you got the movies that DC is producing, where, well, I don't know if overexposure is the problem there, but more the creative fallings and failings of most of the movie projects. And then their actors constantly destroying the brand, like Ezra Miller and Amber Heard, just making a complete mockery out of them, and Warner having to do everything in their power to try and distance themselves from those two as much as possible. So bad casting that ended up biting you in the butt a little bit in that regard. But in any case, yeah, you look at what the MCU has done with the whole cinematic universe format for film. It was really successful creatively and obviously financially for quite a while there. And generally, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that during the Infinity Saga I enjoyed every single Marvel movie, because I didn't. There were some that were better than others and some that weren't to my liking. But generally, there was a consistent quality there, and they built to an epic climax. And that's kind of the other problem with Marvel right now is after Endgame, who cares? Like, we've already had the big climax. You know, the ring's been pitched into the volcano. The Death Star's been blown up. We're good. We're ready to mosey on into the sunset and kind of move on from Marvel. At least, I think that number of people who are ready to move on from Marvel is kind of growing, because I think a lot of the cracks in the wall and dents in the armor are starting to show themselves. And I think just the sheer glut of content, people are like, look, I can't watch all of this. It's just not possible. And you're expecting me to watch all this just to understand your entire larger universe. And right now, they're producing all of this content, and there's no obvious large storyline going on like there was in the earlier Marvel films, where everything was building to a climactic showdown with Thanos. Almost from the very beginning, from the first Avengers movie. That's what everything was building to. And everything that was done in the service of that kind of larger story. And now it's like, I don't know what's going on. I mean, Kang's been introduced, supposedly, but who knows? Like, I couldn't tell you what's going on with any of that. And very few of the movies I've seen, there's no, like, from what I've seen, again, it's just the Spider-Man movie. I think maybe they're leaning into the multiverse concept and using that as like the larger storyline. But even then, it's like, I don't care. Like, I just don't care anymore. But it's just, man, they've gone way too far. And I think what's that line from Bane in The Dark Knight Rises? Victory has defeated you. It's like, I kind of feel like that's where we are with Disney, at least in Marvel world. I mean, Star Wars has been a sloppy mess for a few years now, but even then, yeah, Mandalorian was a big hit. So they're like, all right, we got to produce 45 different Star Wars shows. I'm like, or you could not do that and just keep a slow and steady pace and just keep giving us the things that we like at a slow and steady pace and a reasonable schedule. But Disney don't play like that, and everything has become horrible because of it.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next products.
Now, I'd like to wrap up by talking about a cinematic universe that hasn't completely pissed me off, but kind of has the opposite problem of what's currently going on with the MCU and Star Wars, and that is Legendary Pictures' MonsterVerse, which has been around for 8 years now, beginning with 2014's Godzilla film, and has featured Godzilla and King Kong in prominent positions until finally crossing them over in 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong, a movie that was fairly well received. A lot of people had fun with it, and it was like the point that the entire MonsterVerse was building to, and now things are moving forward from that film. And over time, the MonsterVerse, like I said, it's been around for 8 years, and we've had, let's see, two Godzilla movies, one Kong movie, and then the crossover. So we've only had 4 movies with this MonsterVerse in 8 years. And as for content in between, there's been some comics that pop up from time to time. I liked a couple of them, but they haven't beat us over the head with content. And it's funny, they've announced that the Godzilla vs. Kong sequel is currently filming. It began filming, and it's set to be released in March of 2024. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm like, no. In the MonsterVerse, everything gets pushed back. So it's like that puppy will be out in 2026, more likely. I think back to when the 2014 film first came out. That thing was supposed to come out in 2012, and it got pushed back. And Godzilla King of the Monsters got notoriously pushed back several times. It was supposed to come out in 2017, and and Japan was able to make Shin Godzilla and a full Godzilla animated trilogy in between the time it took to release the 2014 film and the 2019 film from Legendary Pictures. So that one had a lot of delays. I believe Skull Island got delayed. Initially, it was supposed to come out in 2016. It got pushed back a year. And then Godzilla vs. Kong obviously got pushed back because of COVID. It was supposed to come out in 2020. And it's like, man, I don't believe that 2024 release date, but my point is, the MonsterVerse has survived, done reasonably well. They've kind of flown under the radar a little bit because they're not constantly throwing content in your face, and they're not beating you over the head with, like, you got to check out this show and this show. It's like, oh, we're doing a Ghidorah show, we're doing a Mothra show, we're doing a Rodan show that's a prequel to the other movie that sets up 3 movies down the pipeline and things like that. They haven't been that intricate. It's just kind of like, hey, you want to make some fun monster stuff? Let's just make some fun giant monster stuff, and that's how you get some of the entertaining films that we've gotten. I've enjoyed the 2014 Godzilla film. I enjoyed Skull Island. I enjoyed Godzilla King of the Monsters, even though that one was probably the poorest received of the MonsterVerse thus far. And I enjoyed Godzilla vs. Kong because at the end of the day, they're simple, fun monster movies that are made for the fans who enjoy that thing, and they present some of the best versions of Godzilla and Kong that I've ever seen, in addition to also getting Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah and Mechagodzilla in the mix, which is all really, really fun. And now what we have in the pipeline, we have the 2024 Godzilla vs. Kong follow-up. We don't even know what that's about yet. And whoa, guys, they're doing 2 shows in between now and when the 2024 film comes out. It's like, whoa, they're really blowing on all cylinders. They've got 2 shows coming out. There's a Skull Island anime starring King Kong that'll be debuting on Netflix, and Apple Plus is going to be getting a show of some kind. We don't know entirely what it is, if it's a Godzilla show or a straight up Monarch show where it's like a Monster of the Week thing. I don't know why the 2 MonsterVerse shows are on different platforms. That feels very strange to me. You would think they would all be on HBO Max, but in any case, this is the most content that the MonsterVerse has had in the pipeline since they began 8 years ago. And it's still like easily dwarfed by whatever Disney is doing with their brand, so it doesn't even feel like that much. And we still don't know so much about the Monarch show and the Godzilla vs. Kong follow-up. I hope that they don't do Godzilla vs. Kong again. I hope that they need to stay partners and friends. They're teamed up now. They're all good. Like, that would be the nicest follow-up. But it would be really cool if Anguirus and Gigan showed up. Just saying, I'd be down for that. But in any case, Godzilla in particular, and monster movies as a whole, I've always been a big Kong fan, but Godzilla in particular is something that I am a really big fan of, and something that I've really enjoyed. And part of the reason I still enjoy Godzilla movies is that they don't happen all the time. I'm not constantly being asked to go see this movie and this movie and this movie, and they're like 3 months apart. Oh, and then there's this show. You got to watch this show to keep up with all of this. Toho has produced its fair share of content. Godzilla Singular Point, the anime trilogy, Shin Godzilla, which had, varying degrees of success. I loved Shin Godzilla. I was not the biggest fan of the anime trilogy, and Singular Point is somewhere in between, but even then, it's like, I don't feel like Godzilla's been as oversaturated, and that's the word of the day. I keep using it, but I don't feel like Godzilla's been as overexposed and as oversaturated as what I'm seeing right now from Marvel and Star Wars, where I see those brands and I start cringing, and I go, ugh! Because they've overdone themselves. They've overdone it. It's everywhere now, and it's no longer this epic thing that's worth waiting for. It's this thing that's just everywhere now, and I'm just sick and tired of looking at it. So the MonsterVerse has its issues with how they've presented their content, with all the delays and everything, but at the very least, it hasn't overstayed its welcome, and they stay entertaining, they stay consistent, and they're having fun, and that's seems to be the name of the game with the MonsterVerse. So let's just go out and have fun with our monster movies. And you know what? I appreciate that, and I've had fun watching them. So hopefully the 2 shows turn out well. I'm very interested in the Monarch TV series. I hope Godzilla's in it. But in any case, we'll have to see how all that plays out. And, whatever they do in the next movie, I'm here for it. I'm down. I think Godzilla vs. Kong kind of reinvigorated the MonsterVerse, because it felt like King of the Monsters did not do well at the box office, and Godzilla vs. Kong was being done out of obligation, and it's like, that movie's going to happen, and they're going to wrap it up, and we'll be done with the MonsterVerse. But I think people reacted so well to that one that was like, oh, maybe there's some more there's some more gold to be mined here. But so they're expanding a little bit. It's like, oh, we're doing 1 movie and 2 TV shows in between. So, whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's like, which again, like maybe like 10 years ago that would have felt like a lot, but now in today's culture, it's like, dude, that's relatively minor. Like that's almost pedestrian compared to what Disney does. Like Disney looks at that release schedule and goes, you're only doing 2 shows? Like what? You can do like 47, right? It's like, good Lord, do you not have money? We have money, but yeah, the MonsterVerse I'm still enjoying, and hopefully that trend continues as we get more material from them, but we'll have to wait and see. There's still a lot we don't know about the movies or the TV shows that are coming out, so it's all speculative at this point. But my point is, I want nothing to do with Marvel at this point. I want nothing to... especially... Star Wars is so dead to me, I can't even express it in words, and it depresses me on a level that is beyond any kind of language that I could possibly learn to express how I feel about how Star Wars is dead to me. But that was depressing. But Godzilla, Godzilla and Kong, they're still going strong, and they're still staying entertaining and staying fun. And as long as they can keep doing that, I'll be here for all the material that they produce. But that is all I have for you now. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. If you're interested in watching more from this channel, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the little bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos, and follow me on Twitter. The link is in the description. But again, I'm signing off here. Peace out, everybody.